Go ahead and call to order the Economic Development Committee meeting for 9/15/20. In attendance, we have myself, Mr. Eric DiNardo, Mr. Eric Thompson, and our Law Director, Keith Moore. Hopefully James is just running a little bit late and can still be here. We wanted to, let's talk first about digital signs and just kind of get that out of the way.
Okay.
The gentleman texted me today that from Adsposure that came and presented. I wanted to just check with you guys, see if you had questions, concerns. He texted me today, said he wasn't going to be able to make tonight. And actually, I think it would be better suited if we're not going to go ahead and do an ordinance for it, probably would be better served in committee of a whole for everybody to discuss.
It seems it covered, it covered not just those digital signs, but also potential for updated bus stops and things as well.
Yeah,
what
well,
he's proposing.
they normally go either with the bus stop or they're right there close to the bus stop.
Okay.
And there's X amount that are digital and then X amount that are just static.
Got it.
When I had a Zoom call with him, he went through and we were looking at different locations. And they're primarily the busy corners, intersections where there is a bus stop already.
Yeah, they were in the PowerPoint that he.
What's that?
They were all included in the PowerPoint that he sent, yeah.
And so it's a neat thing, like you said, after 2 years, it's free. We don't pay anything. We don't pay for installation, we don't pay cost of the sign or anything, but we get to advertise on there whenever the city wants to put a message of some sort. We can add to that. And after 2 years, once they have accumulated their cost, then we start splitting profits. And at minimum, we get.
Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Why 2 years? It seemed to suggest that it was a dollar figure. I think he had $1 million sunk in.
He would, yeah,
That
but
was
he
an
was.
estimate.
Yeah, they're estimated it would take about 2 years for them to recoup all the cost, at which point we're then guaranteed, we would profit share 50/50.
But they had a threshold.
But there was at least guarantee of, we would get like 40 or 41,000 a month. Now, if we did that, this is obviously out for discussion, what others think. Because those are on the, they're on the streets and by the bus stops, stuff like that, I would say that we would designate those funds to like a streets fund or something like that, instead of just being used willy-nilly. Just to be able to, that way, we at least have some money in there to do some type of repair, whether it's the repair like the mayor's talking about, where we mill down some of the bus stop areas right now.
Put in the concrete.
Those kind of things, it could be as little as that, or as grand as, if there is, a lot of real good money that comes through on that, that just gives us additional funds, or that's money that we could use as matching and for grants and stuff like that.
I think when he left, and, this is a committee, so we're just kind of like ideating, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think when he left, I said, is what he said actually going to take place from a financial perspective? And I imagine even if that was 2 years, I was picking at you because I thought that was pretty aggressive. That it assumed quite a lot of ad space to happen pretty quickly and pretty pervasively. And it would take kind of the full gamut of products that we would get. Even if that was the case and it took 2, 4, 6 years to pay back, then the potential, I suppose, financially is still net good to us. So I suppose the only thing that we're really, in my head, that I'm really concerned about is, what does this look like is a digital sign or a digital at the bus stop replacing the ads that are already there, because there's already kind of bus stop benches anyway, making them digital, is that cool and attractive? Or does that look cheap, crappy, it might be bad in 5 years sort of thing? And that's where my head goes with this stuff, because financially, even in the worst case scenario, I'm going, okay, I truly don't think I'm going to have to pay anything. And then maybe even if he's wrong, it takes 6 years, you still eventually get some money.
Right.
So financially, it's probably a good play. It's more in my head around, what's this going to look like in a couple of years? Is this going to look good, or is this going to look junk?
Right.
And that's what I'm weighing up. And the PowerPoint did look, just so people on TV, I don't know if everyone got it because he didn't get to present. It did look pretty cool. But I imagine that's intentional. He's selling us product, so, okay. But that's where my head was in all this.
The signs themselves, I believe there's some downtown, because these were initially going to be like really the whole streetcar route.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that didn't, ended up panning out. And so they didn't put them all in. So I think that there are a couple down there. They're vertical signs. So you're right. But I mean, the way he stated the contract would be after 2 years, we at least start getting 40,000.
Yeah, he said regardless.
Yeah.
It was after you start.
But after they
a
do
minimum of
recoup
40, Even if
everything.
they haven't paid off their
Oh,
things.
So-
Then after that,
Then
once they pay off their
recoup, yeah.
investment, then you get the 50/50s.
So, I mean, again, it's probably good. I mean, we're going to get money. It's just if we want
that kind of thing.
Yeah, if $40,000, which is a lot of dough for some cool projects, if it's good. I mean, if people aren't going to like it, or if they think it's
Does our
kitschy.
current sign code allow for digital boards?
It doesn't really allow for, let's see, the prohibited would be animated. It depends on what exactly that means. There's cabinet, let me see. Rotating multi-prism indexing, animated. Electronic messaging centers are allowed in the general and central business districts and manufacturing districts. And I don't know, to be honest with you, looking at exempt signs includes signs owned and sponsored by various governmental entities, including the city. I'm not sure that these would be owned and sponsored. I don't think they'd be owned and sponsored by the city.
No, they'd be owned and sponsored by them.
Yeah.
We just get to use.
I think that their standard boards where they're just the backlight signs, you see those everywhere
Yeah.
as part of, it wouldn't be any different than the signs that are on our bus stops now, except they would be lit up. I mean.
Sounds
those-
better.
It's the digital, I mean, because it's basically a large TV standing on its end. And I assume it can play video. I'm sure it displays stills too, but the idea is that it rotates through multiple advertisements, which helps make it profitable because it's not just one thing, it's multiple things on there. So I'm with Mr. Donardo. It just becomes an issue of is that the kind of signage we want on basically Montgomery Road going through our city?
I mean, part of the justification for the sign code is traffic safety, and so that would be a question, is if you're driving down Montgomery Road and there's a TV flashing, how awesome is that going to be as you look over at that and hit somebody?
Right. Depends on what's playing, I guess, huh? So I think what I need to do is reach back out to him, see about putting this in a committee of a whole, and see if he could get us some better images or be able to present with where we could actually see what those signs look like, both maybe day and night, hopefully, what they look like. And then, what are the actual dimensions of the whole things? Because, where he's wanting to do is pretty much mostly Montgomery Road, but there's some on Smith, there's some over by Rookwood. There's, trying to think where
I
else.
think they really followed bus route areas.
Yeah, it's pretty much a bus route area. And obviously, those are going to be high-traffic areas anyway.
Right.
I think that's, I think it's great that committee of the whole probably will give it more exposure, and him coming and presenting on a screen about
Yeah.
the screens, I think would be good so the TV can see it for
Yeah.
folks at home. But because this kind of has the same vibe as, on a very minor level, as the murals, in that it makes, the difference being this makes money, but what we're asking ourselves, I think collectively, is do people want it here? Because everything else probably ticks the box of yes, do we want it here? And if people see it on TV, I suppose I would want either us or Keith, or not Keith, Ken, to try to encourage folks to come and speak on it in the same way that we heard 19 people come and talk on murals, because it's the input part
Sure.
that I suppose really matters in this particular case, because the sales pitch is probably easy from a financial perspective.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And the fact that, sometimes we try to somewhat get pressured by saying, but it's free to you, and then you're going to make money. It doesn't necessarily mean that our people want it, So I think that's, probably the best idea, is put it in a committee of the whole, let us get a little bit more information from him, and then to be able to present, hopefully we can get the setup to where he can present, and we'll go back that way. Sound good? Mr. Bonds, do you have anything?
Yeah, I would just say that, the ability, I think it's good that, we are gonna get that 40,000 at starting year 3, no matter what, but, personally, there's no guarantees that it makes it to year 3, like maybe the company cuts it after year 2, I don't know. So I wouldn't mind pushing back on him saying, until it's paid off, like the city gets like 20% of the ad revenue, and then once it's paid off, right, that investment's paid off with the other 30% that the city gets a larger percent, or something where the city starts getting stuff on year 1, year 2, so we can tell our citizens, look, the first couple of years, we'll be getting 20,000, 30,000 a year, but, after that, it'll be more. I would be curious what he would say. We can talk to him on that committee of the whole about that. He might say, no, we really need to pay it off. He might say, well, we could probably just adjust the terms a little bit, so. And the other thing I would say is they don't, I would almost want to see a minimum amount for using the sign. For example, if somebody wants to actually buy ads on it, he's giving us this projection that it can make, the city, was it $200,000 a year after it's paid off?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Make sure I was in the right ballpark there from that presentation. My concern would be, well, what if it's lower, right, and we're selling these things for dirt cheap? In my opinion, I would rather the city just get additional space to put additional messaging. If there's, for some reason, they can't sell ad space or there's just not enough demand, they just give the city additional space. Don't sell it for bottom price, barrel prices. Let the city just have additional public messages, and it could just be fun messages. It doesn't have to be anything selling anything at the city, but I don't want people to be subjected to ads if there's not actually good money being made from them for their benefit at the city. So just two things I was kind of thinking about in my head. Both of them could be not really that important or that big of a deal, but just let you know.
And I think that's a good question would be, how many ads does the city get? Per board,
So,
because each board is two-sided.
so what I was reading about is that on the digital ones, so the static ones we wouldn't get any, right, because they're a static.
Right, yeah.
But on the digital ones, I was reading that it had 8 slides, and the city would get one of those slides. So, it could literally be a message that says, welcome to Norwood, right? Or it could be a message advertising, the police and fire night out, right, down at the Waterworks Park, or it could be advertising the new basketball course, whatever it is, which is great. I think it's awesome that we would, I think that's a great component of it. However, like I said, I would want, if they're just not gonna be able to sell all of 7 spaces that are the sellable spaces, then I would say, I would love something in there just saying, hey, let the city have another spot or another 2 spots and rotate that in, so.
Right.
Yep.
And does that message have to be the same message throughout the city?
I think they're,
There's a per
I
board,
doubt it.
so-
I think to me, it seems the way the system's like designed, the way that this presentation's being made, I would think if a company near Rookwood wants to target the ones near Rookwood.
Right.
They probably could.
No, I mean, as far as the city's message.
Oh.
Could we target, that the ones that are maybe close to Rookwood and, we talk about speeding or something on those, and something else we're saying, hey, pool passes are available. Does each sign
Yeah.
have to have the same city message, or can we put a different message on each of those signs wherever, we get that?
Yeah, that'll be a good question for
Yeah.
when we talk to them, so, great.
Okay. All right, I'll reach back out to him and tell him that we're going to put in a committee of whole. Ken didn't call one yet, did he, the other night?
He's waiting for a few more meetings to come out at the end of September and October, and into October. Because the intent is to do the doubling up that some of us, including me, like.
Yeah.
We did it today. I find it pretty successful. I
Yeah.
heard a few people echo that sentiment.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, anytime that we can double up, it's going to be better, but, okay. So, hopefully we can do it either the end of the month or the beginning of the month and
Yes.
get a double up on one and kind of get that moving, so. All right, I'll reach out to him in regards to that. Next, we wanted to kind of hopefully be able to finalize the issues with the mural ordinance. So let's start by, Mr. Moore, you gave us a few different definitions from around the country as far as what the definition is for murals. You have any other comments on these, or?
Well, I thought, actually, a large part of that was because of Ms. Gary, when she came to the council meeting that seemed to be one of her present. She and I have kind of gone back and forth on a couple of things on that. The idea is to get it as tight as we can, to make it as clear and to steer away from what might be constitutional issues. So it's back to the distinction that commercial speech has less constitutional protection than non-commercial. So to make sure that this is art, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about art, we're not talking about selling anything. And these are just some samples of what I thought this is okay language in all of these. I will say that I don't think you go into the details of the ordinances behind the definition, and some of these are I cannot believe they're still on the books, quite honestly, that they're that, no, you can't do that. I guess they've not been challenged, so, but just some idea, if the committee had any, if not, I'll work on maybe tightening up, add a couple of things. I think Eric he looked at a couple before the meeting started, and, yeah, I'm trying to think like painting or artwork, and the concern of painted or attached to the exterior of the wall, to make clear that a stained glass window, like replacing a window with a stained glass or replacing one stained glass with another, does not run afoul of this. It's not pull it into this, because it wouldn't be governed under the sign code anyway. So you don't want to have to get a permit for that.
You have a copy of what you're looking for? Did you send?
Yeah, I'm sorry. There are consequences.
I think this is like, I was sort of hoping, and I don't even know if it's possible because that's the point of a discussion, but I was sort of hoping if there was, like, in this, a sentence that says, if you add this, it would really put us in a stronger position. Because, and the reason I'm kind of asking for just tell me the answer sort of thing is because I don't know if, I heard you say I don't know if you're ever going to get 100%.
No.
That's the vibe I was sort of getting from the past meetings.
Right.
You're never 100% protected. So if that's the case, and I'm at 60% protected, and then I also hear that, and other definitions are at 40 or 20% protected and they're not being challenged, I'm kind of like, well, how do we get good enough? Do you know what I'm saying? And then it's kind of going, well, then just tell me what's good enough. And I'm probably going to be cool with it because I don't know any. I wasn't challenging it before, and I'm probably not going to challenge it now, sort of thing.
And I understand that. I just don't know of a controlling court case that said, this language is good. And that's, until you get that, there is no definitive answer, is the hard part.
This first one from Palm Springs, I mean, it seems to be, a mural means a painting or artwork temporarily or permanently affixed to a building wall, freestanding wall, or fence, which can be seen from the public right-of-way and is distinguished from signage that it does not advertise a business, commercial endeavor, or product sold or offered on the site or off-site. Because that's, I think, one of the things we need to make sure is that people realize that, Coca-Cola can't just get with somebody and throw something up. So, if there's any type of advertisement in it, then that's a sign. And then they would have to get.
Right. And that's, both Vicky and I kind of like that one. Thought that was a pretty good definition.
Does that handle her specific example of the window?
I think so, yeah. It's because it's affixed to a building wall. We can put it on the outside of a building wall. That's why there's other language in some of these
Sure.
that maybe to resolve, because I don't think Palm Springs is looking at that. I will say Palm Springs is one where, okay, this is the definition of a mural, but as you get into their actual code, in order to get mural approval, because you have to get it, you submit it along with your color scheme, because they regulate how many colors you can have in a sign or a mural. And it goes to an arts review committee and the planning commission, and they prepare reports on whether they think it's okay, and then it goes to city council for their approval. And I know that's not allowed.
They never get anything done that way.
Oh, and there's notice sent to neighboring property owners for their comments on it. Yeah, but the definition of mural is pretty good. I like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, but then their procedures afterwards
Yep.
are pretty stringent.
But I think that shows, I think what you're saying there, though, shows that, as kind of echoing Mr. DiNardo's point about, potentially there's going to be risk, but I think there's a lot of laws out there that potentially could be challenged in many different cities and haven't been yet. And not that we don't face that risk, but I am appreciative that it seems like we are taking every effort to make this right. On that note, though, did we need to talk about the part with the school district and city-owned parks?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, just before you just want to talk about another
Yeah.
aspect of the risk, because the real risk, there are people that might file the ACLU, there are people that might file civil rights complaints. And one way to alleviate that risk is to pull non-commercial speech out and make it freer than commercial speech, which is kind of what this does. Because you can't discriminate against non-commercial speech and allow commercial speech. It's not as protected. Another way, another potential class of people who would challenge it are people that want to put up billboards or want to put up commercial signage. And they can come in because it's a First Amendment challenge and say, because this part of it is unconstitutional, which doesn't apply to what I'm trying to do at all, then you need to, then the code is unconstitutional and you need to take out the part that's not. And the way this has been set up is that we can delete the mural part altogether and really not affect any of the rest of the code. So we're not at risk of the billboard company comes in, challenges it because somebody can't put a political sign in their yard under the code. And so the whole code goes away because there's no good way to take that out. And then we're unregulated till we can pass a new one and they put up billboards during that time. So that's the other potential. And the way we've structured this, I hope it makes it easier to slice this part out of it if there is a problem with it. But I'm assuming if somebody files a lawsuit, we'll just say, okay, fine, we'll change it. And, and avoid all of that, but we'll see.
Exactly, especially if whatever they bring up is new information we just completely didn't consider, and it's like, okay, yeah, that, you give us the opinion that they're probably gonna win, and great point, thank you, for change. I mean, that seems to me like pretty, because it's gonna work out. So, but I do want to talk about the school district one, because.
Well, let's, can we just
Okay, you're fine,
finalize,
you're
kind of like.
fine, sorry.
No, you're good. Let's kind of come to an agreeance on the closest that we like for a definition to be able to give to the law department for them to then put it in our words if they need to, make a couple changes or something like that, slight changes, but, I mean, are you guys good with this first one, or is there a line or, things you want added or removed?
I mean, my only question, because my original thing was that we're talking about paintings. We're painting a wall. But then at one of the committee meetings, I think it was Eric or maybe it was in the draft you did, it was like, or mosaics.
Yeah,
And so I don't know how,
Yeah.
if we want to limit it, if the committee wants to limit it to just paintings, or are mosaics counted, or any artwork is, I'm just not sure on that, so.
well, this
What-
would,
What I actually liked about the second one was that it defined it as something that's painted on or attached to exterior wall.
Okay.
When you get that or attached into, there are lots of different techniques for doing murals. Painting is only one of them. There's, you can do.
live walls and.
Do it.
Like the live ones where you affix shrubbery
Plants and stuff,
brush
yeah, you
or
could do that. You could
artwork
do.
kind of gets attached.
You could do the mosaics, you can do, like actual printed on paper and then basically varnished to the wall, and it becomes a semi-permanent.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of ways that you can do it. What I like about that is it defines it as being attached or painted, so the attached covers those other kind of mediums. And it also points out exterior walls, which I think covers off on
Would the
the,
attached or,
windows.
could we use the term attached or painted, or attached, or does artwork in that first one where it says means a painting or artwork? Or could we make that an art attachment? You see what I'm saying? Would artwork not cover that? 'Cause
I think it does.
when you say mosaics, the mosaics are got to be painted, and then they're affixed to the wall. So I'm looking at that, that's painted, That's the way I would look at it, but
Yeah, I mean, I like number one as well, the first one as well, personally. I do think we should just be careful on this, and we might want to just consider just all the ramifications of expanding it from something that's painted, because I still don't even know exactly all the ramifications of all the different things that could be considered artwork and temporarily or permanently affixed to a building. So, I mean, I'm a little bit concerned at that. I will say that in the renderings for the playing card company that they showed, their mural was not, according to the way it looked in the picture, it was not it didn't look like they were painted on the side of the parking garage. It looked like it was hanging on something, or it was, I don't know if you saw the rendering.
Yeah.
It's very, very much just a temporary render. I mean, it's not necessarily what's going to be there, but I do think this is relevant in that sense, because again, that would probably then very much be allowed if we were to expand the definition. But again, I just, kind of looking to, Eric's far more, I think the biggest artist on council.
Yeah.
I mean, can you give any other examples of what, I just can't think of a place where I've seen artwork permanently or temporarily attached to a building that wasn't painted, other than a few of the examples that you already gave. Is there anything that you could think of that might be like?
There's one downtown. I could find a picture of it for you and show you later, but it's actually, what they did, this is a very famous artist, a worldwide artist. It's a portrait, full wall. What they do is they plaster the wall, and then he comes in and chips off pieces of the plaster. So there's actually no painting on the wall at all. But when you look at what appears to be chipped paint on a wall, you see it's an amazing portrait of a person's face.
okay.
That's in downtown Cincinnati. As I said, there's the kind of large scale printing that or it doesn't, not even necessarily printing, but you could paint on paper and then basically paste it to a wall. Those aren't quite as permanent as a painted wall, but they do last quite a while. The Shepherd Ferry arts that went up all around town 3 or 4 years ago. He's the guy that did the Barack Obama Hope poster.
Okay,
He had several murals all around town done in that style.
okay. And then they're just sealed?
Huh?
That's put up, and then there's like a sealant that goes over to keep it?
Yeah. Those last for several years. Depending on how they're done. So, and mosaics, that's another kind. So there are many ways to achieve a mural. I would say 95% of the time, it's probably going to be painted on a wall.
Right.
But there is the possibility that there could be another way of doing it. I think even the one, the mural in Pleasant Ridge, I think has some 3D texture to it.
Okay.
The one I'm talking about that you can see from,
Right there at Kennedy?
I think so, that's got the flowers.
Yeah.
Big flowers, yeah, that's got some actual texture put into it to pop those flowers, so there's something there besides paint.
Okay.
So that's what I'm trying to.
So where it says painting or artwork, temporary or permanently affixed,
I believe that covers all that.
okay, good. So then one, sounds like at this point, again, as Mr. Bonzel alluded to, this is probably, since this is, something new for us, we're probably going to have to come back and tweak some things here and there. But it looks like this particular definition from Palm Springs would be a good one for us to at least start with. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
I'm good?
Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Eric, okay? Mark that one, Mr. Moore. All right, so then,
I'm just thinking, because I just wanted to add, I was going to toss in there from Tucson, I was going to toss in non-commercial. So mural means a non-commercial painting or artwork, temporarily or permanently affixed to, and I was going to add the exterior surface of a building wall, freestanding wall or fence, so.
Cool.
Just. I could probably do more, but we want to move on, so. I
You
never have
can,
too many words.
you can spend the entire term
Yes,
continuing to,
exactly.
all right, Mr. Bonzo, you had the next thing you kind of wanted to make sure
Sorry
we.
about that.
No, you're
Yeah,
good.
so, one of the items I think that Mrs. Gary brought up to me, or I don't know if she brought up publicly or privately, but that specifically calling out the Norwood City School District could potentially be, like, as an entity to allow murals, may potentially, violate some, concerns there. I think potentially we could reword that. And by the way, too, I have heard nothing from any school or the school district about wanting a mural. Like, this is not about anything that's planned. It's literally about, I think there could be some cool projects, like to put it maybe on the side of one of their buildings where the students actually get to help design it. And I could just imagine some pretty cool projects that could come out of this. And I figured that we might as well just tackle the situation now and not have to come back later. So I was thinking potentially we could change it to, and Mr. Moore, please respond if you don't agree, but any property used as a school for more than 100 students. And I felt like that doesn't call out the school district. If there's a charter school that moves in, that they would then qualify, right? It's not just specific to the public school. So I didn't know, Mr. Moore, if you thought that we could do that.
I'm going to ask how many schools have more than 100 students?
Right, I mean, I would say right now there's 5 that I could think of off the top of my head, so. Potentially there could be a 6th depending on how North Norwood's used, but I don't think they have more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that would in North Norwood, or I don't know how many kids are at Immaculate Conception.
Yeah, that's a good point. So
That's the question. It's like, if you pick it out as like someone who, on a house that is 15 feet north of waterworks, if you make it that specific, so it can only be those, then you're kind of getting to the same thing.
Yeah, it's not specifically to exclude, maybe we could say it's greater than 50. What it is trying to exclude is like places where a preschool might pop up, right? Or like a expanded daycare or something where they might, that's basically, that was my goal, is to kind of keep it at actual school buildings, But yeah, no, if you think it should be 50, maybe 50 is a much more reasonable number that kind of achieves some of the policy objectives, but then also doesn't overly exclude private schools that, like Immaculate Conception.
Well, the question is, what is a policy objective then?
Policy objective is to, for me, is to allow schools to be able to put murals on the side of their building. That's,
In residential districts, because they could in commercial anyway, under either one of these.
yeah, so I guess that would be the case, yes.
Okay. And then, because my thinking was, if that's the goal, then actually, it's just for the second option, Mike, but for the buildings that are within district zone for residential use currently occupied by permitted or conditional commercial or school use, was my thought, but that would include the preschools, would include the really small ones as well. But that was my thinking about what might be a way to get there. But again, there's not been a rush
Oh, I agree, yeah.
by
I
the
don't-
schools, so.
Yeah, and the only preschool that I can, I might be wrong about this, the one that I can think of, because I used to live right there, but it's the other
Yeah.
Montessori, that one's already in a neighborhood business district, so I don't see them necessarily, it wouldn't affect them either way. If they wanted to have one up on, yeah, they would not be affected, so, yeah, I think that would, I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks. To me, that sounds fine.
What was your actual, repeat what you were saying?
Well, it takes off on the one that's in a residential district that's currently being used for commercial purpose, is to add currently being used for commercial or school use.
So that would be ordinance 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, A, yes.
So
that's
that's,
A,
yeah, the only
right,
thing about that is that, because it is something that I think that we could all be unified on, to have this in both ordinances. Don't want to push it, though. That's,
But we could essentially do the same, take out the commercial part and just put the school part in for the option B. So,
And then the other thing that, by not being able to say the Norwood City School District, it does take out sports stadium, like sporting facilities. So specifically, I guess we look at Shea Stadium, because that's owned by the school district, but it's not being used for a school purpose. My intent originally was to include that as well when I said
Yeah.
Norwood City School District. Could we, is there, do we have anything creative that to think of for that one? And we don't have to even, again, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
burden us down, and I'm fine if we want to move on, but it just seemed to make sense that potentially to allow.
I really don't have any problem with schools, even as a broad definition,
Oh,
personally.
no, but we would still do schools, but the thing is that the stadium doesn't count.
Nope, and so I was about to say, so,
Is the stadium in a residential or is it in a?
It is, it's in an
Yeah.
R, I looked at it the other day. I think it's in an R2 district.
What if you just said school properties?
I think that was his first idea.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you can't do
You could
that?
probably do, yeah, I don't know.
The problem there is you're picking the speaker, is under the First Amendment, the government can't say, James gets to talk publicly, but Mike doesn't. And that's essentially what you're doing. You're saying the school district, the Norwood Public Schools, the Norwood City School District, they can say whatever they want. They can put up whatever they want. But,
The general public can't.
but this private school can, right? And Eric can't, but the school district can.
Yeah, it's an R1 is
Yeah.
the thing.
Of course, that's big enough that they could get pretty much anything they wanted under the sign code square foot requirements anyway, I'm thinking. They got a huge frontage. But,
But they're still, that wouldn't be allowed to have the mural because they're in an R1 zone at the stadium, right?
they'd be allowed to have a sign though.
Yeah, oh, no, for sure.
Yeah, but it would be limited. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't know, and to be honest with you, I don't know if that's a school accessory use. Or if that's a commercial use, or, I don't know, I'm
Yeah, so
assuming
then
it's just
then the que-
grandfathered now,
If
but,
they have registered, I don't know if they have any registered trademarks at the school. I would think they do. I don't know if they do. Like, I don't know how that intellectual property works for a high school. Like, I'm sure that some high schools do, like, but I don't know how we do it. Long story short about it is, I also wouldn't want them to be excluded from putting their own logo up at the stadium in a mural.
Probably a sign.
Yeah, so they may not be able to do it with a mural then. if,
I mean, part of me thinks, because there's no plans that we
Yeah.
know of for any of this stuff,
Sure.
adding the schools, I thought, now learning why you're saying schools and not Norwood schools or whatever. I think that's great. It gives us the option to vote on two different ordinances that meets the mark. We've defined the mural language. I think leaving the stadium out, it's kind of like, if the stadium wanted to put a big thing of, the logo or whatever it is, I imagine we could just kind of talk about it again in a year, if that were really to be a plan.
Okay, that's fine. We'll drop the stadium part. So then totally cool. The last one is city parks, because city parks, many of them are in residential districts. And some of them have some really ugly walls on the side of their restroom buildings. So I think there could be some opportunity there. Sign code specifically, so because this is being encompassed in the sign code, and the sign code excludes city-owned and sponsored signs, can potentially, we just not even worry about the parks, knowing that we can put them there. It's because it's a city property and the sign would be essentially a city sign, because the city would allow.
The
sign
city
on it.
could then commission to have the bathrooms and all the parks that have the bathroom things, they could have them commission paintings to be put on there without, and that would be excluded from this. Is that correct? That's a real technicality.
well, the way I've got this written is that sections 1303 to 1321 don't apply to, like, murals, they don't cover murals. And the exemptions from the sign code are in 1321.04. So we're kind of pulling the city back into being governed by, especially when we say, city-owned buildings, but only city-owned buildings in parks.
So I had a thought on.
Which was, so we can just exempt city-owned buildings altogether, and that's easy enough to do. Because we really shouldn't be telling ourselves we can't put up a mural if the administration decides to put one up.
Right.
I'm
So that's
thinking,
totally-
unless you just don't trust them. And
That's
they'll,
just- yeah, that's-
whoever the administration happens to be will put up something you don't
I
like.
trust this administration, but no.
So, yeah,
I think that makes sense. If we're allowed to do that, then I would just say do that and,
Just leave that part out.
no, I think he's saying that because we don't
wants to
want
exempt
to,
it.
we don't want to depend on the sign codes exemption for the mural part, because you don't want to combine, you don't want to mix them up. So he's going to actually add another exemption. I would say into ordinance 1 and 2, but I mean, I would defer to you.
Yeah.
Just saying city-owned buildings
Right,
are,
'cause-
Just in the one version or in both?
So explain what that exemption is again.
Basically, the city owns a building, the city can put up a mural on it if
Yeah.
they feel like it. Because there are buildings and it's our code, so we
Right.
can do, that's the logic anyway.
Right. So do we have to state that in this?
It's better to state it than not, just like in the zoning code, in the sign code, it says, it exempts entirely signs owned and sponsored by the state, county, city, or public utility entities.
Okay.
and he's saying that the reason why it's better to state it is because, again, you don't cross back over into talking about what's in the sign code when you're talking about murals for the city's exemption.
Okay.
Like, we don't depend on the sign code for the city to have the exemption.
So we could put a sign up on if we wanted to, and because of that exemption in the sign code, so if we put it in the mural code, same thing. If we chose to do it,
Yeah.
or the administration, I should say, chose to do it. Okay, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Do we have something in there that prevents somebody from profiting? Because if there's something up there that's promoting something, that would be a sign, and you couldn't do that. But I'm just wanting to make sure that somebody doesn't go to, I go to your building and say, I will give you X amount of dollars over the next, 5 years if you let me paint this sign or this mural up there. Is
I
there,
suppose the fact that you gave notice to the people you were supposed to give notice to, and you went through the proper procedures that were put in place, that even if one person is getting their $10 a month or whatever it is, and the neighbors aren't, I guess you've already kind of understood that that was okay, it's independent, because them saying yes or no, they're not getting the fee. So if they're all kind of expressing an approval, then you're fine.
are we okay with
I-
somebody?
I just want to say this. Eric may correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's this large group of artists who are willing to pay people for a canvas.
Oh, I
may be
doubt it,
wrong,
too. That
but
was-
there
that
may
was
be a
just-
big industry there,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't think so.
Right. And I agree, because anything normally that you would think that would get painted, that somebody would get paid for, would be some sort of advertisement. And
Right.
You can't do that. But,
It's possible, but it's just, and it's hard to see how anybody's getting taken advantage of in that.
Yeah.
I'm just missing that.
So, I just had a question about how, again, I'm just like I'm dreaming deep about this, and we can keep this to like a minute. So what if, on the property, I guess along Duck Creek, the big wall that's, I guess, owned by the state of Ohio, would somebody be allowed to like register to paint something on that thing, like a 20 by 20?
If we add the language, signs, if we exempt or murals on property owned and sponsored by the state, county, city, or public utility entities, then that would be allowed under the sign code. You'd still have to get ODOT's permission.
Oh, for sure, okay.
Yeah.
So are you going to use that same language then?
I think
Okay.
that makes sense, yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Okay. So they would have, in that case, say somebody wanted to do Duck Creek, they'd have to get ODOT and then our own approval?
Well-
They'd have to get both approvals?
If we
ODOT's not
exempt basically stuff owned by the state, then no.
It would just have to be ODOT,
It would have to be ODOT's approval, yeah,
because it's their property.
yeah.
Okay.
Or you may want ODOT to have to get, submit a permit, but
I cannot imagine ODOT approving it without
can't
talking
either.
to somebody at the city, which makes sense.
And then what about allowing any type of copyrighted or trademarked depictions?
is that,
Depictions?
is that in here now?
No, I'm just,
okay.
yeah, I'm asking kind of everyone here, if, do we allow, like, anything that's, trademarked, and, or copyrighted?
I think a trademark might fall afoul of the definition of mural and make it commercial, for the most part. For copyright, the problem with that is that I don't know how we police that. Actually, for trademark, I don't know how we police that without doing a trademark search, but you can't do a copyright search.
I would say also there is the possibility that somebody would maybe want to do a mural. They maybe got permission from an artist to do a copy of their painting on a wall. That would be a copyrighted work,
Okay.
but it's up to the artist to clear that, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Not the code.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And the good thing is that that does happen. That's not advertising a business, commercial endeavor, or
It's not,
product
yeah,
sold.
that's copyright, not trademark. Trademark is, I think, falls under advertising in any way
Yeah,
you look at
I
it.
think that would fall under advertising anyway,
Or trade.
which would be, yeah.
Right, and to be honest, I'm happy to let Disney enforce their own trademarks,
Exactly, yeah, I
you
agree.
know, and copyrights.
Okay. And then, anything else on those type of ordinances? And then, you know, before we send this back and have it ready for Tuesday, are we good with the Arts Board ordinance that they drafted up for us? Everybody's good with that?
Once I fix the math, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any issue with it personally. Okay, so the thing,
Oh, actually, the one question I would have is like, we've got 3 members.
yes, that's exactly.
How many are appointed by the mayor and how many by council?
I would almost want to make this simpler, and maybe we don't, maybe this is going against the effect of it, but I would almost just say appointed by the mayor, approved by council. That way,
There you go.
Okay.
I just think it's simpler because we're gonna have to figure out then on the first time we appoint, is the first member, is the member that's appointed to a 1-year term, is that one appointed by council or is the mayor? And the one appointed to a 2-year term, is
Right.
that, you know?
Yeah, it's probably best that way, and plus trying to get 7 guys to all, you know, jump on board and suddenly everybody's got all these. I mean, if you've got somebody submitted to the mayor and just say, hey, you know, here's somebody that I'd recommend for the board, and let him do it. He appoints all the other boards and commissions.
Yeah, and if council says too, like, look, we've got this person we want, you know,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, please, like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Okay. So we'll just make them all, and how many did we decide on there? Was it
I think
3
it
or?
was 3, because that way they would serve for 3-year terms,
Yeah,
so.
okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to again, commend this committee for the great work that's happened, and just the partnership really, because I think this is, you know, a contentious topic, and I feel like the way that we're leaving this, especially, you know, with the 2 ordinances, but just being able to work together on it, I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing. So I appreciate that, Mr. Chair, for all the work you've done, and the law director as well for the
Yeah.
work you've done on this.
Well, I just appreciate all you guys. This has been obviously a very, very hot topic. And we've been able to sit here and disagree respectfully and just, you know, try to work something out to where we're going to have these 2 ordinances and we vote on them and we move forward. That's the way things should work. And I appreciate you guys' work on this. I mean, it has been grueling, so hopefully nothing else comes up, and Tuesday we can have a vote on these and just move forward. And again, there's going to be things that we're going to tweak and probably make changes here and there because this is new for us. And as we step down this journey, we'll figure it out. But hopefully we can at least start on something. Anything from the gallery? I didn't say peanut gallery, I just said gallery.
It's quite all right. Pastor Sonny James, 1830 Hopkins Avenue. I am pleased that my 8-year-old daughter, who is very much a resident in Norwood, was able to come tonight and to witness as I piggyback what was just spoken, that it's really nice when we can come together and maybe agree to disagree, but yet actually have an agenda, understanding that, as you all have spoken tonight, it's very difficult or next to impossible to get 100% on anything. But I know as we shape our future as a community through the eyes of our children, it's important that they see us come together. And I want to applaud you all, and I want the residents in Norwood to see that we can come together and not have all things 100%, but if we just stay at the table together and we work together, and I have to say again and again and again to the Norwood residents, to our voters of this city, that when you look at the leadership, a lot of what happens in our community happens as a direct reflection of the leadership. And so I want to commend you all. I want to commend the leadership of this particular committee, because as you all have echoed, this has been a really horrific topic. And you all have done an excellent job addressing it. I commend the law department for having a lot of input and giving clarity, so it doesn't look like it's the blind leading the blind. We try to get some expertise or some wisdom to the table. So I'm just excited that my 8-year-old could witness this, so that as God launches her into whatever He brings her to in this community, that you all are mentors and you really help shape how she should do things as she grows. So I just wanted to say thank you. Great job. And again, this committee, I just think it's awesome how you guys work together. So keep up the good work, guys. Good night.
All right, well, if nothing else, it's on anyone else's mind, we will now send it to the law department for them to work their logistical fingers on, and have the 2 ordinances plus the Arts Board ordinance for Tuesday night's meeting. All right? All right, call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.